Tell me about, I know you've done something like 50 plus interviews when you were at McKinsey and interviewing on behalf of the firm. Do you remember any particular interviews where the candidate, he or she, like stands out in your mind, like you still remember to this day, even though it's like now years later? And if so, what was it about that person? Like, what did they demonstrate in the interviews that made such a positive impression?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you have to think of how the interviewer is experiencing the day of the interviews. And so I'll give you an example of one day that I had. I was on a project here in San Francisco, and I had to fly back to New Hampshire to do interviews at Dartmouth, where I did business school. So I flew in the night before. As you can imagine, I'm exhausted because of the time zone difference and the long flight. Come in for the day of interviews, and then you're basically there from 8 a.m. until about 6 p.m. interviewing people back to back, and then going into these rapid fire assessment meetings. So it's an exhausting process, and you see a lot of people throughout it. And so standing out is, I think, an important thing for candidates to try to do beyond just demonstrating the skills that that the firms are looking for. So I think the one candidate that really stood out in my mind on a day like that was someone who did a good job on the basics of the case. They had the requisite, quant and communication skills. Their ideas were good, but what they really did that was interesting is they seemed very excited about the business problem that we were talking about. It was very clear to them that they cared. They were like tremendously interested in the situation. And after the case was over, they were asking questions about the situation itself as if it was a real...
So they were like digging in further.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And was it a case that you had worked on that you were giving? So like something that you personally knew a lot about?
No,
I guess not, because McKinsey is, you have kind of the standard cases that you have to give, right?
Right. They're all standard cases. I think this candidate thought that it might have been something I'd worked on.
Okay, so
they were clearly eager to learn
she was
more.
like really interested in learning. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, cool.
And that's the kind of like passion that, you want to work with someone like that, and it only helps you be more successful. So that person really stood out.
Cool.